So, when it comes to this NAR settlement, we really want to bring mindset into play because so many different people have so many different feelings around this. So I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but if you think this is going to negatively affect your business, you're right. Obviously, if you think it's going to positively affect your business, you're right. And we want to ask the question where people's mindset is around it specifically. And you guys can jump in the Q&A if you'd like anytime. Park your question. We'll get to it as soon as we can. But in terms of the mindset we see, what are you seeing from agents, Brent? What are you specifically seeing?
Well, I mean, you said it earlier, right? There's two camps. I think there's actually three. There's people that are kind of like in the unsure camp, right? They're trying to figure it out and how it's going to impact their business. But there is a lot of agents that I coach with and talk to on a regular basis, and on a lot of groups that I'm a part of. There is a lot of agents out there that are scared, have anxiety or fear around this change and how it will impact their income. And rightfully so. If you step back and think about it, like this is our livelihood, so it is something to be scared about, or it could potentially be something to be scared about, especially if you haven't really thought through the impact that it could have on your business. And then there's the unsure camp, the people that just don't quite know what it's going to do, and they're just approaching it like I'm just going to do business now, and then I'm going to worry about it later. And then the third one is the people that have vetted it out, put a plan together, and they are, as positive as they can be that their business is going to thrive in this new environment. That's the three camps that I constantly deal with or hear from.
What's interesting too, and maybe just our unique position because we do, work with a lot of agents in the Valley, with and without our company, because we're constantly trying to get into business with talented people. So we're talking to the most talented people all the time. And I've actually been blown away, Brent, at how some of the people that have been doing business for a long time at a high level and how a lot of them are, I say a lot of them, more than I would have expected, are literally giving up. They're like, this business is too hard now. The change is too crazy. I'm out of here. And they don't even know what the change is. They're just so afraid of how the change is going to impact their business. They're literally like retiring from real estate. And I can't believe how many people have done that. So that's if you think this is going to positively affect your business, you're right. Like think about the people who are getting out of the business because of this, and they are no longer going to be able to serve clients, and those clients are going to have to work with someone, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, this goes with any market shift, change in how we sell, what we sell, all of those types of things. The reality is the people that approach it as if there is opportunity in this, their business always thrives and always moves through whatever
Yeah.
that shift in market is.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about changes in terms of the business, so stay tuned. Let's keep moving here.
But
All right. So should sellers offer a buyer agent commission? Now, before I go into some of the presentation here, like what would you say to this, Brent?
well, so I'm gonna speak through the lens of some agents that I've talked to, right? Because I have my opinions, but I wanna try to approach this as and by the way, like in the Q&A, I would love to hear from other people. Like, what do you think? Do you think you should tell your seller to offer a buyer agent commission, and how would you have that conversation? But through the lens of an agent, I could see this as a difficult conversation or a hard conversation. Sellers are hearing, hey, I don't have to pay a buyer agent anymore. And then, not being prepared for that conversation, I could see that as something very difficult to have with a seller to try to communicate that there is value in offering a commission. How do you do that? And there's lots of variations in what can come through in an offer. And I think you can maybe leverage the way we've done things in the past to build a narrative around the way we do things today. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Well, we'll go a little deeper. Like, give me an example of how we've done something in the past that you think you can leverage.
so in if you're with a seller, so when I talk to a seller, right, I offer a strategic price, and then a market price, and then a like a dream price, a target price. And in my conversation with them, when I show them the strategic price, my conversation is, or even the higher price, my conversation with them is, look, when someone submits an offer, end of the day, what you net is the most important thing. So our goal is to use the best strategy up front to net you the most amount of money. What the terms or what the offer looks like, what the in between looks like, is really irrelevant as long as you net what you want and you get out of your home in the same amount of time. All of that is the negotiation factor, or part of the deal. So if we choose the strategic offer, we have the ability to increase your net. And if we choose the target offer, or target price as the initial offering, like, we're going to work backwards likely, right? So end of the day though, like the middle part, the terms, that part is irrelevant so long as you're netting what you want.
Yeah, one of
Does that
my
make sense?
yeah, yes, it does. One of my favorite scripts, you just triggered it in my head, and so here's some bonus content that doesn't really have to do with the NAR settlement, but it kind of does tie into it a little bit. But when I would call for sale by owners, and I'd say, "Hey, are you, open to paying a commission?" And obviously, my goal was to get a listing. And sometimes I'd have buyers that might be interested, and I'd call them. But I'd say, "Hey, will you pay a commission?" They say, "Yeah, but I won't hire an agent." And I'm like, "Well, just out of curiosity, like, is there a reason why?" And they're like, "Well, I don't want to pay the commission." And so my script was very simple. It's an amazing script, works really well. I would say, Brent, well, let me ask you this. What matters more? How much money you pay me or how much money you make? And they're like, well, obviously, how much money I make. And I'm like, great. So if you can pay me and make the money you want to make, would you consider hiring me? And that was one of my number one ways to get the appointment. And it works, because I mean, unless they're unreasonable, and if they're unreasonable, I don't want to work with them anyways, which some
So
of them
what,
are.
so what I hear you saying is flip that script. If the seller says, should we pay the buyer agent commission? Say, what's more important, what you pay a buyer agent or what you make? Well, what I make. Oh, okay.
Boom.
Great. So if we
Boom.
can pay the buyer agent and you get what you want, do you think you should pay a buyer agent?
Awesome. So this goes right into the tactical piece. So I got this question from one of the agents I coach, and top agent in the valley, by the way. And he's like, "Hey, my seller was asking me, should I offer to pay a buyer agent commission?" And obviously, once you get into the settlement, I think effective August 7th is the date here in Boise, Idaho. So if you're an agent in Boise, Idaho, across the country, the 17th is kind of the date that's going around. But in Idaho, Boise, Idaho, if you're working on the Intermountain MLS, August 7th, you will no longer be able to put commission into the MLS. So the answer is today. This is the answer. Like, if someone says today, you take a listing right now, it's June 27th. So we have a month and a half ish of still working through this until we get to the new way it's going to be ran, which we'll talk about that too. But if they're like, hey, should I offer to pay a buyer's agent commission? And I think there's, some dialogue. So let's go into the future. Let's go August 8th. You can't put the commission on the listing. You can't advertise the commission in the MLS or on any of the syndicating sites. You can say you're offering commission somehow. There's a lot of gray around that. So let's go to something you guys are used to. Back in, let's see, like 2011 and 12, when I was listing a lot of homes, I would have clients ask me, I would prepare them, hey, by the way, buyers at this price point, whatever the price point was, like, these are first-time home buyers, they need you to pay their closing costs. They are going to ask for it. So I would prepare them. Be prepared. This is very common. And they would say, well, Chase, why don't we just offer it in the listing? And here's the problem with that. I never, as a listing agent, thought that was a smart thing to do for one specific reason. You can't search it. So the clients who are looking at home to home to home to home, they can't search it. And then once they're interested in your property, they see, oh, you're offering closing costs. Well, that's now the new price, and they want to negotiate off of that.
Yep.
So there's no advantage, in my opinion, to offering the closing cost. And that's the same thing on the commission side, in my opinion. I want to prepare my seller. So let me back up. If I'm not going to market, hey, we'll pay closing costs, because I never did, and I thought that was silly. Why would I market, hey, we'll pay commissions? I want to prepare my seller. This is common. And let's wait and see what the offer is, because who knows? Maybe there's an offer that they don't want me to pay the commission.
Yeah, and there's some disruptors that we might talk about that
We will, yeah.
I think will be like a flash in the market, and it's not a sustainable disruptors, but that could be to your seller's advantage for as long as they are around, right?
Yeah, correct.
So
So do you commonly offer upfront to pay closing costs? Like most sellers don't. I mean, I think any good listing agent doesn't do this because they know better. When you see this stuff like, oh, we're offering a carpet allowance for 5 grand or whatever, that's rookie moves, in my opinion. You know, and Brent and I have sold 5,500 homes in our career. You can just trust us, or you can make those mistakes on your own if you want. But you know, you're not really getting a huge benefit by marketing that. It just doesn't scale. If anything, I think you're doing your client a disservice, because if I'm a buyer representative and I see you're offering closing costs, that's my starting point for negotiation. I'm not going to go up from there. I'm going down. So
so what I hear you saying is don't overcomplicate it. It's the same as if someone were to make an offer and ask for closing costs. You prepare your seller for a situation where someone may be asking for something to be covered. And you say, let's look at it when we get offers and consider those.
yeah,
And you make the decision at that point. Do you want
yeah.
to accept it or not accept it?
So imagine this: you have a seller who, you know, whatever, they went and bought for sale by owner, and they had to pay their buyer's agent's commission. So now they go to list their home, and they say, and I've had this happen. If you do enough business, you'll have this happen. I've had a seller come to me, Brent, and they say, I'm not paying a buyer agent's commission. I'm not paying it, period. And we get two offers that come in, and one of them is a cash offer, 30 grand low, and the other one's full price. And you know, they want you to pay the commission, which happens to be 15 grand. Like, which one's more money? You know, are you going to let your emotions get in the way of making more money? You know, oh, it's principal, Chase. And I'm like, well, your principal is going to cost you $15,000. Is that what you want? Because I'm just here to help you. And if that's what you want, that's fine. You know, you can stand on principle all you want, and you're leaving 15 grand on the table. And so the same thing holds true here. Just set the expectation in this market. Buyers are likely going to be asking you to pay their buyer's agent's commission. At the end of the day, we'll do the math and we'll find out which offer is going to net you the most amount of money, because that's what you want, right? And that's a 30-second conversation that's going to save you a ton of headache once you start to negotiate on offers with all this emotion and all the, you know, just to be frank, all the misinformation in the you know, the news around this. Anything else?
No, man. I think you nailed it. So
Okay. So let's jump into the new norm. Brent, I'll let you kind of talk about this one a little bit.
yeah. So what's interesting is this is my favorite part of the settlement, what it's going to change. This is my favorite part because this is a piece that I think has been missing from our industry that should be there anyways. Is, you know, we went into such a hot market that agents got really lazy. Agents stopped calling for their client, the seller's agent or the listing agent, and discussing the terms of the offer prior to submitting the offer. And there's a whole slew of questions you can ask, ways to set it up to help your buyer win. And there's so many agents out there that got very lazy. You'd get a text that says, offer in your inbox. What? So one of my favorite changes that is going to be the new norm is if an agent wants to get paid, they're going to need to call and have a conversation with the listing agent around the terms of the offer, what the offer needs to look like, how to get them their buyer to win and the seller to win and align interests. Like that's going to become common practice. And it's one of
So
my favorite things.
so I love this. I think it's going to become common practice for the best agents.
Yes.
I don't know that it's going to become a common practice for everyone. And let me give you, let's just walk through this. Let's just walk through it together super fast. I have a client who cannot pay me, but they've agreed that they will pay me. Whatever. Let's just say it's a we're not supposed to talk about numbers, so it doesn't matter. But let's just say I've got a commission. They've agreed to pay it. Let's say it's 5 grand. That's my commission. 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever. I've got them to agree to pay that, but they don't have the money to pay their closing costs and their down payment and pay me. So I have to negotiate. Okay. It's just like go back 5 years ago. I've got a client who can't pay their closing costs. I have to get them that or they can't buy the house. So what's the best alternative? Do I just go show homes and then write offers and hope sellers are open to that? Or do I call in advance and say, hey, here's the scenario. My client needs this or they can't buy. Is this a reasonable expectation? And the seller, I think here's a new norm for listing agents, by the way. Listing agents are going to have to say, like, well, it's been on the market for 30 days or 50 days or 60 days. Yeah, we're open to offers. Or it's like, hey, it's day one. I don't know if that's going to be realistic right away. That's not our ideal scenario. And let's be real, like you guys, a lot of you know this. If you're listening to this, you're probably smart enough to have learned some things in the real estate business. So you know that if you need closing cost and you want to be competitive, you could add to the price of the home, right? So if it's a $500,000 home and I need them to pay $15,000 in closing costs for my, the commission and whatever else, I might offer 515 and now I have a full price offer from a net perspective. What do you think about that, Brent?
Yeah. So here's where my brain goes with everything you just said. Like just kind of wrapping it all up is I think one of the issues that we had in the past is there was the appearance of a potential of steering, right? Is if the commission was 2.5%. Again, I know I'm not stock percentages, but like that's a real scenario. It's showing at 2.5. You've negotiated with your client to pay you 3. Like that's a real scenario. It's not an average. It's not a market standard. That's a real scenario.
Okay.
And
Example.
it's an example. It was taken as steering, or if you said, hey, look, if we list this property at this lower commission rate, you won't get as many people interested in it. Here's the reality, and this is where it's going to open up the conversation. The reality is any good agent was just having the conversation with their client. Hey, here's what I charge. If there's a deficit, you need to come up with it. By the way, hey, this house, it has a deficit. I can either negotiate for more. If we don't get it, you have to come up with it. The buyer got to say, I don't really want to offer on that house then unless we can get it fully covered. So in other words, this is actually kind of exposing that conversation, and removing the veil of people thinking that you're steering people to, where you're going to make the most amount of money. It's no, I charge X and I get paid X.
Yeah.
And if the property's not paying X, then the buyer's not interested. I've had that conversation with the buyer directly. So to me, it's interesting that that's kind of the way we've always done it. But I don't know if steering happened in the past with other people, but this opens it up to remove that as an option.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So new norm, obviously having buyer consultations with every client prior to showing. And that's a kind of a term we use a lot, but really you're meeting with your client in person. You're letting them know you're getting an agreement signed. Every state's going to probably do this a little bit differently. Our understanding is there's going to be kind of a new document where you can sign an agreement to show them without negotiating a commission, which I think is just fascinating. But you're disclosing that, hey, if we buy a house, you have to pay me, even though you're not necessarily disclosing that. But what we think best practice will be is actually just doing a buyer representation agreement, a buyer broker agreement, where you actually meet with Brent and say, hey, this is how I operate. This is what I charge. This is my intention to help you with this thing. And if I can't get it paid, we can try to negotiate, just like closing costs. Like, look, you're gonna have to pay closing costs. They're roughly 2% of the cost of of the loan or of the house. So 500,000, you're going to have to come up 10 grand. And they're like, well, I don't have 10 grand. It's like, okay, well, I will do my best to negotiate the seller to pay that for you. It's the same exact scenario, same
Yeah,
exact scenario.
exactly.
Um,
Real quick about around the conducting buyer consultations. This is just, some bonus perspective here. The agents that master getting the buyer rep or buyer broker signed quickly is going to win. In other words, if you can learn how to do it at an open house and you can learn the scripting and the verbiage in order to get people to commit immediately, or if you could figure out a way, if you find someone interested, to have a virtual consult to get it immediately, like the agents that figure that out are going to be the
speed.
agents that win in the future market.
Yeah, speed to agreement, right?
Yep.
And I think there's some mindset and some standards too. Like you need to be confident around this stuff. Like that is a game changer. When you're like, oh, timid. I coach agents. I coached an agent in the last week on this exact topic, like getting a commission agreed upon in writing up front, and that the buyer's responsible for it. Like it's one of those things you've really got to work through. You got to practice. You got to talk about it. You might have to fail at it. But the better and better you get at it, the more confident you'll be, and the standard, you'll toe a standard. Like I will not show anyone without an agreed upon buyer representation agreement with the commission that I charge. And that's going to be I think that's going to be the bumpiest road for a lot of new agents. And you
Well,
know,
and honestly, that right there is going to be what causes people to think or create new disruptive models.
which we're going to, I think, next.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
So let's talk about the history of disruption. So I started in this business as a real estate agent in 2005. Zillow wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't a thing. These things did not exist. In fact, when Zillow came out, I remember hearing about it because I was like one of the last people to know because I was just selling houses. And I remember hearing about it. I'm like, wait a minute. So they take our listing and they go promote it for free. I'm like, what are these guys stupid? Sounds great. And that was pretty much the whole opinion of the National Association of Realtors. Like, honestly, they were just stupid. We were stupid collectively as National
well,
Association.
and frankly, like Zillow packaged the narrative that way on,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
purposely.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so what does Zillow actually do? Well, Zillow actually takes the product they get from us for basically nothing, and then they attract buyers and sellers, and then they sell those leads to us. That was the moment we realized that we had messed up. Was like, wait a minute, we have to pay you. This is our listing. You got the lead from our listing. So obviously, hindsight being 2020, how stupid were we? But at the time, like, not that I had any decision in this at all. It's just at the time, like I was probably just like everyone else. Like, this is interesting. Go for it, market it. Well, that's a huge disruptor, right? Facebook the same way, right? If you're not in social media in general, Facebook, Instagram, like think about how many people are doing business on this, not just the influencers, the Rico stars of the world. We're also talking about like people paying to run ads and then get leads. Like this is a huge, 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 huge factor. And I remember actually I bought Facebook stock like a week after it came on the market. It was like $27 a share. 2 weeks later, it went down to 15. And the criticism was this: Facebook does not know how to monetize its product. They did, and at the time they didn't. It was just people posting pictures of their kids and pets and sports and stupid stuff, right? Well, that changed pretty quick. And now they know how to monetize it, right? AI is the same thing right now. AI right now, ChatGPT, they're like, well, they don't really know how to monetize it. And let's be real, $20 a month for the pro, that ain't it, guys. That is not the end game. We don't even know what the monetization is going to look like. So, but
We're
think of
we're all we're doing is feeding it.
exactly
Yeah.
daily. Yeah, we're training it. So then we had, what is this, Brent? What are iBuyers and instant offers?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. This has been around for eons. Like we buy ugly houses, and I buy homes for cash, no realtor commissions. Well, iBuyers basically just put a marketing spin on it and said, hey, Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow tried it. We're going to come in and we're just going to cut the agent out. And we're basically going to buy the commission by buying the house and then reselling it. And it's funny because most of them ended up hiring agents to resell them, which is super interesting. But my point is like these.
Well, hold on. You got to sit in that moment for a
Yeah.
second, just so people understand. So they're telling you, the seller, don't use a realtor. You'd have to be stupid to pay commission. And
Yes,
then they buy your house for a discounted rate, and then they go hire a freaking realtor because they know it's the best way to sell a home. That's what you're saying, right?
that's exactly what happened. But they came in and it was disruptive. It made everybody think different and it hit some markets like Phoenix really, really hard. I mean,
In
they
realtors, I have a friend in Phoenix, and guess what he said to me, Brent?
what do you say?
He's like, "We're gonna be out of business, dude."
There you go. Yeah. So
All right, discount brokers.
so disruptive, right? Just kidding. But Homie came in. I don't know if you guys remember that. They flopped in Boise, but they killed it in Utah. And Homie was basically like, hey, list with us for a flat fee. There were like a for sale by owner on steroids. And there was a lot of a la carte stuff that you could get from Homie, but again, made agents think differently. I
Yeah,
think the point is like these were all pretty major shifts in the market
and scary,
and
scary, scary,
scary.
scary.
And where are we? We're still here,
Yep,
right?
yep.
There's
People are
not a
still hiring
kayak. There's not
realtors.
a kayak for real estate agents yet, right?
Well,
Or
and funny enough for Zillow, the public, I say the public, it's really the uneducated public. They're like, buyers agents don't do anything. I had to go find the property on my own, blah, 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 blah. Like, we get it. We get that that's the narrative, but here's the reality, okay? More people are using the internet to research and find homes today than ever. And buyer representation agreements have gone up since Zillow.
yep,
So what we're finding is that the more information you get, the more likely you are to need a professional to disseminate the information and navigate it. So
bingo,
yeah.
nailed it.
All right. So potential disruptions due to settlement. This is one that I think is just kind of interesting just to think about, like Uber for real estate agents. So you're in front of a house, you hit a button, someone shows up to show you the house in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. Um, what do you think about that one, Brent?
Well, I've already heard grumblings of tech like this that is going to be quote unquote revolutionary. If all it was getting into a home, then I would be concerned. But that's not all buying a home is. And I think you said it, right? There's just too much information. Is this the right home? Is it going to be the right offer? Is this the right area? There's so many other questions. What else is out there? Is it comparable to those? I think there's onesie twosies where you stumble on the house, you know exactly what you want, and this is the one. And those are the people that call the listing agent and buy direct if they don't have
Yeah.
an agent. I think that number is not going to change. It's the same amount of people that are willing to do that tomorrow as it was yesterday.
Well, and let's think about the problems here. Like one is how are you going to make money? Like that's why Homey and some of these other things like go like crazy, and you're like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. But people forget, like, you don't run a business to lose money. A lot of people do. Zillow hasn't made money. I don't even know if they've ever made money, honestly. I don't think they've ever made money as a company. I'm pretty
I don't
sure
doubt it.
someone fact check me. I don't think they've literally ever been profitable. So you can do it for a long freaking time. As long as you have enough belief and people pouring money into you, that's the stock market for you. But if you look at this, like, you need massive amounts of capital to make something like this work. And time and time and time again, it's failed. Here's the other issue too. How many buyers have we shown homes to and then they never buy a home ever? So the only way
It's
something
one of
like
the reasons we charge what we do.
exactly, because there's a lot of risk,
Yeah.
right? It's not like an attorney who is going to get paid $500 an hour no matter what happens, right? So that means the only way something like this works is the consumer has to pay up front. right? And I think we talk about that hourly rates becoming commonplace for realtors. Like, is this going to be a thing? Is there going to be a brokerage that's like, hey, $50 an hour, we'll do whatever you want. You can pay us all day, or $100 an hour, or
Yeah,
whatever.
I would say that that's probably the least likely because someone who's not serious, which are the time wasters, those are the people that end up wasting our time, aren't willing to do that. And that's the only reason why that would ever work, right? Is because you need to monetize all of the people that aren't going to buy to make up for the how inexpensive you do it for the people that do buy.
Hmm.
Right. And so if that ends up being a thing, then the people who are serious and going to buy are going to try that out. But the reality is there's not enough serious buyers for that to financially pay off. It's the same as the Uber for real estate showings.
Well, and maybe there would be enough serious buyers if you got them all, but the problem is they already have relationships. Their mom's a realtor, their brother's a realtor. They've got amazing agents like, our City of Trees agents or Living Select agents, like, or whoever. Like, that's the problem, right? You're not going to get everyone. So flat fee for buyers. What do we know about flat fee listing services, Brent?
That they have very little impact on market saturation. I know that for a fact. And the other thing that I know is they actually if you look at Congress and there's a whole slew of them, there's some here locally, but their fallout rate, in other words, that list and then don't sell, is at least double of what it is for a real estate agent who lists a property and sells it. Like someone
Well,
who
and they're also paying up front too.
they pay up front. Yep.
So now the seller's got the risk, and I think if there's a flat fee buyer, I'm assuming it's like, hey, half now and half when you close or whatever.
Well, think about this flat fee listing, right? Pay me up front and you're going to manage your own listing. Like I'm going to put it in the MLS, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'm done. Right. So now I've invested as a flat fee agent, an hour and a half, whatever. But and I'm not negotiating contracts. People are calling you to show like you're taking care of it. With a flat fee buyer, you got to think about that. They pay something up front, then the work starts. It's a lot of work to work with a buyer. And again, what we've been charging as real estate agents, like that's where it pencils. That's just where it pencils for the amount of time and effort and work that goes into
Yeah.
working with buyers. So again, could be a disruptor. All of these could be disruptors, but same thing with going back to the other things that have tried to disrupt our market. I don't think that they're going to make a huge impact long term.
So then how do you build a moat around your business?
Well,
This
this is
business.
really complicated.
Well, take it away.
Yeah. So the way you build a moat around your business is focusing on relationships. It's literally that easy. Now, could you have systems constructed to be able to focus on more relationships with less effort? Yes. I think anybody who's not thinking through that lens of like, how do I stay in relationship with more people with less effort? Now would be the time to start thinking about that because the moat around your business is strengthening your relationship, staying in communication with people that are important with you. And what I love that you say, Chase, being authentic. And what I mean by that, or what I should say, what you mean by it, because it's brilliant advice from you, is would you be calling these people, most of these people, if you weren't a real estate agent, anybody saying yes, you're full of it. You're calling them because you're a real estate agent, right? And so being authentic in those relationships and having business conversations, offering value inside of real estate, being the go-to around real estate conversations and not hiding it, not just calling and talking about their kids and checking in on them and loving on them. Like that's great too, but you need to be authentic. Like you're calling these people for a reason, and that's to ensure that their real estate portfolio and their real estate needs are being met.
Yeah. Yeah, and the agent the agent feedback or their objection is like, I don't want to feel like I'm salesy, or I don't want to feel like I'm pushy. And but when you hit them with the authentic, are you being authentic? They're like, of course I'm authentic. And it's like, okay, well, you call these people and then you don't mention real estate, and you do it every day. And the only reason you're calling is because real estate. So like, is that really being authentic? And then it's like, oof, gut punch. So what are you doing to strengthen relationships? And then how are you creating more relationships? I think those are the key things, because it doesn't really matter what's going on with all the tech and the Uber and this and that and the other. People given the choice to be work with someone they like, know, like, and trust versus working with someone else time and time and time again, they're going to choose the know, like, and trust. So how do you get them to know you, like you, and trust you? And they need to know you're a real estate professional, and you need to constantly be reminding them of that. And those are the people that are going to have zero issues in this business, no matter what the changes are. So
Yeah, it's really interesting. We just went through an entire presentation and then we landed on what's the solution. And the solution has been the same through every single disruption or disruptor to the market, every single shift to the market. The solution is the same, only we just need to continue to get better at it. And I think disruptors are that could impact an agent's business is platforms and larger teams that are better and more resourceful at staying in communication and staying in relationship with these people. So, that if you're an agent and you're listening to this and you're an individual agent, um, what I would challenge you on is you need to be focusing on your systems and ensuring that you have something that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you to stay in relationship with as many people as possible and touching them and loving them as often as possible.
so what you're saying is that my database is probably in someone else's database too.
100%. And so,
Yeah.
whose database it's in matters, right? Who's the most organized, who's saying the
How
most,
they're
who's offering the
touching.
most value. Yep, all of those
Yep,
things
yep,
matter.
yep. Okay, cool. Well, hey, we're over on time. We'd kind of hit on a few of the frequently asked questions. Obviously, if you guys have any questions beyond, if you're watching this on a recording down the road, hit us up. Give us your feedback. Give us your thoughts. Anything we missed or forgot to talk about. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us today. And yeah,
Well, and
feel
and just to end with this, in the school community, under general discussion, we're going to put a spot for more questions and more answers around the NAR settlement. So if you do have additional questions, just go to school,
perfect.
Real Estate Growth Network or Real Estate Growth Forum and ask your question.
Yeah, yeah. We'd love to see you guys in there engaging and asking questions. There's a ton of value in there. So thank you for bringing that up, Brent. All right. Have an amazing summer, and we'll